Well, hello, it's Gmodism here, and we're here with a very little simple tutorial. We're just going to show you the most useful keyboard shortcuts that I know in From the Depth. It is included in the first instant tutorial, but it's kind of old, and I think people just don't click on it anymore, so here we are, remaking some old videos for your convenience. Before we get into it, I will just say huge thank you to all of those who are making this channel more possible and viable, which is of course our biggest supporters in the army of Gmodism. Our officers, most notably Commodore Owen, Captain Shiro, Commander Morton, our lieutenants Anto, Cray V, Drew Candobetta, Florus Dragon, Parba Greed, Vincent Veritas, Rick Brill, and Scooby Rocks. Thanks a lot for supporting the channel every month, and also to all the cadets and everyone in the ecclesiarchy of Gmodism, which you can see below as YouTube members. So, having some useful shortcuts is just necessary to play this game. It's an absolute necessity. So, we're mainly going to focus a little bit on keyboard shortcuts, which this video is about, but I just have to show you this here. Inside options, there are only two quality options you need to care about. Most people can run small builds with maximum quality, so click that. If you're having really big builds spawn in, or if it's lagging or whatever, just click Boost My Performance and use recommended lighting settings. And you can go back to maximum quality and use recommended. That's all you need to know so you can get decent FPS. I have a pretty okay laptop, you know, and I need to turn to boost my performance to even have big battles, you know that. Oh yeah, and if you are watching this guide, you might be a little bit of a min-max or something like that. You can set constant time and constant weather in environment for the designer if you don't want things to shift. And here inside key mappings, you of course have most of the shortcuts listed, I think. But if you're not in designer and you're somewhere pretty dark, you have trouble to see, you can just click Shift and L and you have a little light so that you can easily see what you're doing or rebuilding. If you're somewhere that is pretty dark, a little bit light, Shift L. Let's begin with some camera controls. If you have a numpad, you can use 1 and 3 to numpad to switch between the different vehicles. And if your vehicle has several cameras, you can use 7 and 9 to switch between them. If you want to get up the menu of making cameras, you can select the numpad 8. Maybe this is a little bit new, so I just brought it up here. And if you're moving around on a vehicle like this, you're locked to the camera. Before we could double tap E, that's not a thing anymore. You'll just double tap tab and your camera is free to go. If you want to spawn your avatar, which is optional now, you'll just click on a vehicle somewhere and you do a Shift and G. And Shift G spawns the avatar, so now you can walk around here. And if you click tab, you get it outside it. Tab again, we move to the different cameras where we get back to the avatar eventually. If you want some type of third-person view of the avatar, you can do that with Shift Y. Why? I don't know. Shift Y. Very funny. And you can, let's say, dispose of the avatar with Shift G as well. So yeah, that's dramatic. Most of the commands and shortcuts I'm going to show you is of course build mode, where I feel it's most useful. It can be good to know that on M you have the map, and the map is not the same as the structure, like command structure. But if you zoom out from the E menu, when you go to E, you get this little command menu. When you zoom out from that, you'll actually get to the map view. So that's a little bit weird like that. And before we move over to the build ones, I'll just need to say there is a super annoying thing where your foot is latching or not. So when you use the avatar and walk around and stuff, you may see on very fast vehicle that your foot is latching or not or whatever. And if it is, you can get some issues. If it's not, yeah, you can fall off vehicles that are moving fast and it's janky. So you can see when we kind of click this, you see we're moving around a little bit weird. And now we are engaging magnet mode and then not. I don't know, sometimes it feels like the developers are from the depth kind of removed the avatar instead of like fixing it, because it's pretty janky. Alright, so you probably maybe already know this, but if you don't, F9 is what you remove this, like all the HUDs and overlays with. You can just remove it with F9. And if you want to take a screenshot, you can press F12. Now I actually think this like HUD and stuff isn't rendered when you take a screenshot using F12, but not sure. But that's how you take the images. So when you're uploading stuff to the workshop, you'll need to take an image like that if you want to have some nice little preview. And yeah, then it can be a really smart idea to just like remove that and like zoom in and get a nice angle and take a shot, you know? Another little bit of time control wizardry you must have is of course F11. You can pause the game with. So if we just play around with a little explosion, we can pause the game. So I planted an explosion here and I paused with F11. So then we can just wait and see what happens. Now, inside here you can see we have a little control for speed. If you want to, you can hold minus or plus button, and that will actually change the speed. So now you can see if we are playing the game, we can click play, and this is slow motion, and we can speed it up again. So we're at normal speed. And you can check the speed by just going in here in the E menu. You can see this little multiplier down here. So plus and minus is what you do, basically. For a shortcut, you can see now we are repairing this thing, and that can be pretty annoying. So if our avatar is repairing and we don't want it to repair because we're doing testing, you'll need to click the F7 button. So you can see in the upper corner, avatar repair tentacles disabled. So that's pretty handy. And if you are giving a lot of like materials to a structure and you want to see how efficient it is, you'll need to click F5. You can see up here, Rambot no longer gifting commodities. Rambot is now gifting commodities. So that's how you turn off that, so that it doesn't refill your storages. So when you're building a designer, you of course need to know if your vehicle is going to be efficient enough to hold up in campaign. And if you're giving it materials, well, it won't work. Inside of here, we have the Q menu. So you hold Q, you click designer mode, and you click repair all if you want to repair stuff. The fires will actually also go out when you do this. You can also refill the APS shells, the cram shells, the material, and the engine here. You can also kill a vehicle by clicking 3 times. So these are some really handy things I use all of the time. Designer mode, like repair all function, is definitely something you want to take a look at or use if you somehow missed that. If you click F4 button, you can actually see the current FPS and the game speed. So the game speed kind of decides how laggy the game is. And of course you need to be running it in full time. So hold plus button, you can see it's ticking up here. Or just go into the E menu, click the 1 multiplier here. And when you do that, you can see what type of game speed it is. If it's not 1, probably you're lagging a little bit. Then you can go to options and boost my performance, and it should be running at full speed. When the game speed is basically going below off speed, like 0.5%, and you're playing normally with whatever building you're doing, I would highly recommend you turn on the like lowest settings. That's probably the right answer then. Anyways, there are a lot of nice building shortcuts which we'll need to cover. Data and testing tools. So let's go to the Z menu, and here you can find a tool inventory. So here we have a lot of different debug tools which you can drag down or click to assign to your active toolbar. And when you're here, you'll need to click Shift or hold Shift and click T. So you press T, and now you get this menu. Now you can not use your scroll bar, but you can use your 1, 2, 0 keys Here you can see I have the health tool, so we can measure armor class and health of a block. We have a little painting tool, so I can paint blocks in mass, even right-clicking it and making the brush size pretty large. And we got some different like EMP and of course the explosion we tested before. You can just play around with explosions here, just like that in this menu. And you just Shift T again to remove these testing tools. So it can be really handy, especially this one, the Death Ray, which you can see inside of here. It basically deletes the block you're clicking on by applying damage to it. And that can be a smart thing if you want to test what happens, for example, when your steam boilers break, like this. Like how large is the fire they're gonna create when they break, basically, without applying like an explosion that will also cause additional damage. Yeah, so that's the Z menu for you. Inside of here you can also set your fleet colors, like you can add the Army of Gmodism colors if you want to. They are included in the build platform, they're listed there. If you want them, you can just check out here or there. Actually, you'll see the settings for the Army of Gmodism color, and you can add like several fleet colors here, so you can switch between them, simply loading them like this, and that will of course change the looks of whatever is using fleet colors. Very handy. Which is basically all. I most built in fleet colors, and a lot of people do. Most builders appreciate the fleet colors so that a vehicle can change appearance easily like that. So that's something to keep in mind. In any case, you can also add a little flag and stuff like that if you want that. And yeah, select another avatar, but that's not important for keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that, I just realized. So, the button beside it. When we are in Designer, we might want to test things, and on the X key, you can find different enemies. You can set their spawn distance and sort by type, and you can just spawn. And if you like don't want to be in a battle really, you can delete all enemy vehicles like that and keep your other, like your vehicles, so you can do that. It's very handy. Anyways, I highly recommend the key-based building method. If you don't like that, you can switch to mouse-based by F3, but yeah, it's worth learning. So, when we are having blocks here, we want to place them in like reasonable ways, right? So the simplest way to like select a block, if you don't want to go and find it like wherever you're in the menu, like for example, now I want to build with wood again, but it's a long click to go in here, you know. I can simply go to that block and click R, as in Roger, and I'll select that block. So that's pretty nice. And if I'm building a really big vehicle and it takes some time to move around on it, I can double tap V, A, S, D, so I can move around real easily. This movement is now based on like how I'm looking. If you don't really like that, you can go to the building tool here, and you can actually select the speeds on the double tap speed and stuff like that if you want to as well. So that's like definitely useful. But what you definitely can do here, if you don't want it to switch around, is to make the relative to vehicle. So you'll just uncheck key controls relative to camera. And then you'll see we'll move forwards. If I click W, it will move forwards like this. But so basically, if I look down, I will still go forwards. And that can be useful if you don't want to double tap Alt and Space button. Or if you rather want to do that. If you don't want to double tap Space button and Alt button, you can use the default setting instead, which I use relative to camera. And and then you'll just, you know, go down by pressing W if you look down. But I remember one of you told me in the comments that you wanted that feature, and I realized, hey, that's actually a setting in the game. So I hope that was useful and made any sense. Yeah, there are like millions of settings here. But if you want to select a block, click R, you can use it. So it's an easy way to switch between blocks. And if you want this block to face in a specific direction, like you'll go in tab and you can switch in this key, but it's a little bit janky. So what's easiest to do is to just watch a direction and click G, as in Gmodism, and you'll actually align it towards that direction. And that's really handy when building. If you want to fill a space with a particular block in a particular direction, so if we just face it that way, or actually downwards, and click F, watch down and click F, then you will fill that plane. Now, if I would watch this area and click F, I wouldn't actually fill it because I'm looking the wrong direction. You'll need to watch like the surface you're gonna fill and click F with that. And you might want to build in the middle here, just fill in the middle. And you can't do that because you're not on the block. You can click backspace, and now you can build in the air temporarily. These will fall off if we take any damage, which means we can also fill here with the F key. Now, using smaller blocks is never a good idea from the depth. It will cause lag and unnecessary stuff, and you also get the health point bonus with the larger ones. So be extra careful when using the fill function, that you can like, yeah, use it like this. Also, if I kind of want to undo something I did, I can click Ctrl Z. And if I want to redo it, it's Ctrl Y, like that. Maybe I'll do like this, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Then I can, of course, go in here, select the block, and also Shift and Delete button on the keyboard. It will only remove the block of a certain type. We're gonna undo that, however, Ctrl Z. And let's say I want to replace a block instead. Then I can Shift and click, left click, and then I will build and replace the block that I can just replace it like that. And remember, Shift Delete to remove every of a singular type of block. Now, what if I realized that, damn, I don't want to build this out of wood. I wanted that I should have made it all out of alloy. Fortunately, you can do in the V menu. So if you click V on the keyboard, as in victory, you can go to armor refit. So we can select wood here, and we're gonna select color 0. This is uncolored wood. And we're gonna go to alloy, and we're gonna keep the color, and we're gonna refit. And now all the unpainted wood blocks became alloy blocks. So if I wanted to build this little template here, whatever this is, that would have been much more easy. Very handy. And on the building menu, we have this impossible little long list of like things you can do and the shortcuts you have. So you can easily look here to remind yourself on what different buttons and stuff there are. And they are set up to they're set up to what you set them up to. So they change if you change these. So that can be pretty nice, actually. And to get this little menu you can scroll through, you'll need to click middle mouse button, and you'll get that, and you can scroll it, and you can even like click these buttons to actually use them shortcuts in case you don't have like FN keys or whatever you may miss. Anyways, there is something called like building planes. So if we look at the direction and click M, we create a little plane in the middle of a block, which means our actions are mirrored. But here you can see this is not the right plane. So you'll click M and N again. So N as in new and N again, and you'll get the building plane between two blocks. And if you are building symmetrically like that, that's a good idea. You can do it very easily. Also, if you can build in the other planes up and down or whatever. You can't have several at once, sadly, but that's how it is. If you want this building plane to be in the middle of the vehicle and you're a little bit unsure of where that is, you can go here, and up here you can right click this thing. You can right click the N button here, and it will be in the middle of the vehicle, in the direction of the vehicle that's listed as back and front, which is of course useful for ships and stuff. This is a building platform, which you can get, by the way, if you want to download it on Steam Workshop. You can click again on N until the building plane is removed, in case you wanted to do that. Right, so we have some other stuff in here. Many of these are actually just shortcuts to things which you'll have on your keyboard, but can be useful to see up here too. Yeah, we're mostly going to use the keyboard shortcuts, but a lot of them are available up here. If you don't use them so much, you can find them here as well. So we have the prefab mode. We're gonna cover that in a little moment. You can also rename block, but that's not quite useful. That's more complex stuff. We don't need to cover that right now, I feel like. We have some different views here, which I'm going to show you how to toggle through. Very useful, I think. Under here, you also find a list of your sub-objects. If you want to build on them, you can have a little shortcut to basically go to them in different areas. Yeah, we're gonna look through the different views here. So if you click P, you will minimize all blocks, so it can be a little bit easier to see through. And if you want to basically slice your build, you can click the End key on the keyboard, and you can get different types of cutaway views, which can be pretty useful, which will be there until we turn them off again. Anyways, you can also do like this to switch between the different modes. There is in Shift, if you hold Shift and click P, you'll get different types of like menus. So this first one displays weight, so you can see the heavy armor blocks are of course very heavy, and the alloy blocks are of course very light. So then we have all the different like weights there, where black is the heaviest. Red is pretty heavy, but they are half blocks, so they're of course half as heavy as the full blocks. Yeah, so then if you do hold Shift P, you cycle through the next view and the next view and the next view, so you can see the different type of views. So we have drag, we have cost of the blocks if you want to skimp on some, like, yeah, if you want to make it cheaper. Here on the structural view, you can see only the functional blocks. You don't need to watch the armor blocks. And again, if you click that, you'll find something marked as important. I don't know exactly what isn't important on this thing, but whatever. Here we have that. And if you continue, you'll see which basically direction a block is facing in. So I don't know how that's quite useful, but it's useful if you're building with, yeah, it's good if you have ring shields actually to know that. And the last one is mimics only. So if you want to change mimics, you can see this thing. Of course, the lines under this is our mimics. If we needed to change these, we can go here and click Ctrl X, and we go to the decorator or mimic menu. You can see it here. We can drag around them, fix with things. I actually did this recently because they were painted with my main color, which is white, and I changed it to this color, which is also white. I set it like that so that it doesn't matter which fleet color you have. I forgot about it for the longest time because, you know, they were white for me, so it looked like a blueprint. Yeah, anyways, that was on the previous version. And if you do that again, you go back to the default view, so it can be pretty handy. You got some different detection views there and stuff, but I think maybe we should do a more proper tutorial about views and stuff. We want to go to the building functions more. Yeah, so about that, we're going to have the decorations menu. If you click Ctrl X when you are somewhere on a block or above it, you can add a new decoration. So here it's just Ctrl X and you can add whatever decoration you want with whatever override you want. We're gonna have more better guides about this in the future. It has a lot of details. But the most handy thing when getting started in From the Depth and want to use some mimics a little bit, just to get a hang of it, make some nice looking blocks and stuff like that, you can do like this. When you want to place a block somewhere, but you can't place a block somewhere because it's kind of blocked or whatever. Like for example, if I wanted, let's say if I wanted to have a like beam here, a beam that's visual, look like this one, but isn't a real block, I can go here, select the color and then Ctrl Shift X. And then we spawn a mimic of the block that we placed down. So this is really handy if you want to write a name, for example. You can like do like this. You can do Ctrl Shift X, Ctrl Shift X, and X, nice. And then we need to do these ones. So we can just add these on top. And of course, if you want to, you can adjust them here. You can right click and change the like rotation and the scaling and all of that. But just to get started with mimics, just be anywhere where you want to place a block but really can't. Like if I wanted to cover this up, Ctrl Shift X. Can also change the color, scale it a little bit, and there it is, hidden and nice, very easy. Yeah, so definitely that's some useful things. We're going to try and see if there is something I didn't cover. Yeah, we of course have, like in the V menu, there are some pretty cool things that you might not know. You can see all the stats of the vehicles in the V menu. You can see the top speed, measure the top speed, stuff like that. If you want to save some rendering, you can disable pump water removal effect here, without turning to lower game setting, because that automatically removes that. You have fires, you have engines. Inside here you need to set the power priority. We have a separate tutorial about that. You can add like camos here if you want to. Just write in hashtag camo and like some number. And then a camouflage should be added to it. But if you can't see camouflages, by the way, go into like build menu here. You right click and you can select, maybe you're applying the paint over the camouflage or something like that. And possibly that should solve it. If you're having some like issues where your menus are like, if you click X and you have menus after menus after menus, the thing is you click escape and you just click escape until all the menus are gone. That's how to do that. Yeah, so building shortcuts. We have Shift E building mode too. We have some build tools. So here we can also do a little search to like pick a block very fast. Shift E. And we have a little other list of commands we can use here as well. We have a block counter, so you can see how many of a specific block. Useful to find like how many of a specific block somebody has. If you're trying to apply rules or something, you know, searching for repair bots I use it for. Here we have a shortcut to these different views. And the maintenance tool is really useful. You can like search for, I don't know, we'll search for heat decoys here. And when you click that, you can see all the heat decoys are highlighted like this, and you can remove it easily from here as well. So that's one thing too. Also, we can remove all decorations and mimics. Be careful with this thing because, like, you can't undo this. You can see I can't undo it. So if you spent a lot of time adding that, well, you might get into some troubles. And if you mess that up, by the way, here we have damage debugging. That's for another tutorial, I feel. But if you do want to undo that and you forgot to save, there is something called an autosave. So you can load a vehicle and you browse back. And here you can see autosaves in Designer. So here you can kind of load an earlier version. Continuing down here on our different menus, beside the V menu we looked at, we have the C menu, of course, in between. Here we have AI control. So here is really useful if you want to turn on God mode, or if you want to disable or enable fire. So you can disable movement and stuff from here. So that basically, well, now we see where that is. You can actually go to it. Now this poor thing is basically not maneuvering, so it's basically falling down. And maybe you want to build on this thing and not have it fall down. Well, you can click, you can just click caps lock and it will be locked in the proper direction in air, just like this, so you can like work on it. Very handy. So, if you made it this far in the video, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you think this is useful, and if you do, please leave a like. Also join our Discord community if you want to talk some from the depth with folks. So, here we're going to show some really like useful things. If you have a tooltip or something, like you want to know how many fortress turbines you need, you can click, you can lock a tooltip by holding Control and clicking T. And if you do this, you can see we have like the power in reserve. So now we can, for example, add or remove fortress turbines until we need that amount. So if you also go into like a cannon here, and I want to go to the firing piece, it's gonna be a little bit hard to like see it. So I want to pin this, Control T. So then I can like work on this gun and see how the properties change here. If I add like, remove this thing, okay, check around, see the values change here. So that's like a really useful thing for building that I actually found out pretty newly about. Now, prefabs and subobjects are like super important. So if you want to have subobjects, you just click Ctrl O. You can of course go into the E building menu here and select subobjects mode as well. But Ctrl O, I actually have made this a shortcut, so I use forwards button and backwards button for subobjects and prefab modes. Anyways, here we can see all the commissioned officers in the army of Gmodism, for example. Our supporters have access to all of my files. So I have a pretty big folder structure here, so we can keep track of it all. And I suggest you do a pretty neatly organized folder structure here, because it's going to get, you're going to get a lot of sub-objects sooner or later if you're investing any time in this game. So you can just add and have folders. So I really recommend folks to like sort up their system a little bit there. Yeah. Oh, and you can download, of course, a lot of our vehicles just from the Steam Workshop too. The officers have the convenience of you know, having this easy access, just drop in their files and access them like in the sub-objects mode. But you can go to a turret on a vehicle that's uploaded and like save the sub-object you're working on and like save them down as well. So that's something one can do pretty easily as well. And the prefab mode is Control P. You go in there And that's a little bit weird. This is a little bit janky, but it works pretty well. You get used to it. You click middle mouse button, and then you can load a prefab that you saved earlier. So if I'm gonna like load this thing here, yeah, and if I want to save a prefab, for example, I can like change the dimensions. Need to use a lot of middle mouse button there. And then we can like capture this prefab and save it down. Now, to kind of get the right direction and orientation, we can of course hold the tab and switch around like this. But if we just want it to be properly oriented, we'll just click G, as in Gmodism, to select a direction for it. And that can be pretty good before we like capture it. We can like do like this. Yeah, so it's aligned and nice as it should be. Very handy before we save it down. So those I really recommend you to get some type of shortcuts to. Those building tools are pretty nice, the sub-objects and the prefab mode. It's like, I'm gonna spawn a real big thing for you. An ongoing project will be, we have been doing on stream a little bit actually. Yeah, so here we have a build of a larger size. This is the largest ship we are building ever. It is 782 meters long. It is thus... can we like have 4 gimlets in a row here, I think, about that? That sounds reasonable. Yeah, so this is a crazy big design. And if you're building this big, I'm not saying you should, it's lagging crazy. I'm just doing it because I want to have something that, you know, is really huge. Got a little bit inspired there. If you want to see what I got inspired by, check out our videos where we have some battles recorded with some of Azusa's builds and Kovrak's builds. They're really huge. I wanted something to counter that in size. Anyways, you'll go in here and you right click to select like a larger area. And if you're building really large, it's a really good idea to like build with prefabs enabled. And it's also a smart idea, of course, to enable the symmetry plane here. So if you're gonna build this large, you'll need to use these type of shortcuts because you may not even see it, but this is actually not even a flat surface. This is like this. Yeah, very handy anyways. And if you're like having an enemy in the air here and you want to lock onto it, you can't use the cameras to do that. You can, however, click to track. So if you select F5, you can track a vehicle. So that can be pretty handy. Oh, and if you have like a big vehicle like this, you can hold Control and click Tab, and this will save the like camera for that vehicle. So if you go into different like camera, this is now our default camera. So like that, we go back here, and we can, if we make ourselves free with double tapping, we can then go to the camera using your keypad here. So that's how to save a little camera. So now it's saved here, Control Tab. Now it's saved here, Control Tab. And if you want, you can add more of them, of course. It's probably a good idea to have a lot of them if you're having a really big build. Anyways, to lock onto an enemy, like for example this enemy here, you can click Shift and Caps Lock. You lock onto it. But if you click Control and Caps Lock, you lock onto it there. So Shift and Caps Lock locks into stuff different ways. So you can like get different close and stuff like that. So here we are, a saved position, and the Control Caps Lock kind of takes the current distance or position you have and lock onto it. So that's Really useful if you want to move around and see how the enemies are doing. Can be a good idea. Now, I forget to use this all the time. It's embarrassing, but it is a pretty useful feature. If you go into the E menu here, find building blocks. Like if your favorite building blocks is like the 4-meter alloy beam, you can click like on number 1 here. And if the second most block you like enjoy is the beam slope, you can click there. You go into transitions, maybe you like the 1-meter offset. You can click number 3 here. And then you can like easily switch between them using your number keys on the keyboard here. Very, very handy. And also, when you're building, if you want your build to be colored like right off the bat, that you don't need to go into here and like if you do like this, you can click on free paint, and if you do that, you will put paint on blocks without removing them. And if you select a block and have a paint selected, you will actually build with this paint. So yeah, that's some good tips if you want to build colored. Otherwise, you can build without color and just color them afterwards, either using Shift T, you know, the coloring tool, or the, well, paint mode, basically. Just click free paint and you have the painting mode. Pretty easy and nice. Right. Oh yeah, a huge thing you obviously want to use, that's the like copy function. So if you're having, let's set up some local weapon controllers. We're gonna have the all-in-one type. I'm gonna place one here, and I'm gonna place another one there. So in here, for example, I set it up to be a max range, max altitude, gonna filter only on heat for reasons, and yeah, this is even receiving on channel 2. The failsafe is set up like this, and you're like, oh no, now I need to set it up again. And you'll like click R and place down another of these, and it's like, oh no, the settings didn't copy over. No. Hold Control, click C, copy, Control C. Hold Control, click V, paste. And you have the same settings here. So copy and paste can be done for basically anything. AIs, ammunition blocks, missiles, whatever. And the really cool thing, in the prefab mode, when you copy things with the prefab mode, the Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V settings, they're saved with it. So that's like pretty handy. And inside the C menu, you can also access your AI's behavior and stuff. So you can set them up inside of here. So that's pretty handy too. And you can also adjust the PIDs and stuff like that inside of here. So that is a very handy feature. I would definitely wish I knew when I started playing from the depth. Yeah, what more is there to cover? We have the dimension here. If you want to know how big your ship is and the cost, just read carefully the V menu. It's the construct information. It's very smart. Oh yeah, and about the copy and paste function, it's like really annoying. It only copies the block you're at. So I copy this and I paste this, and it only like copied this particular one, and it's a 2-module one. And this one is a 4-module one, so it of course it messes it up. And what happens if I click Ctrl-Z? Yeah, you can't undo that, so that can be a little bit annoying. You can't undo copy and pastes and stuff like that. Also, another thing that's a little bit like annoying, if you set up thrusters like here, let's say this is gonna be a roller preset, you know? And let's say I have a symmetry plane here, and I select this one and I set it up to be a roller preset as well. It's actually not copied over to this one. That's gonna be the same. So then we need to have Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V. And if we do that, you can see this one is roll left, and this one is roll left too. And that's obviously not right, so you'll need to set that up differently if you want them. They're not getting mirrored automatically. If you want them to retain its settings, you can of course use the prefab mode, and then they will be copied over to the other side as well. But unfortunately, it's a roll left and that's a roll left, so you'll have to change one of them to make it work. So go through carefully with your propulsion and set them up. Also inside of here, they're set to automatic control by default. And if you use this, you're gonna use more thrust and engine power than you need. It's gonna be a little bit jank. So honestly, I recommend you to set it to manual and set everything up properly. You'll see that in my tutorials when I show how to build crafts. It's just a better way to set things up. So remove that habit of using the automatic propulsion because it tends to mess things up a little bit. Yeah. Here we also have a little nice templates that you should be knowing about. They are basically turret wells. So if you're building a turret inside of here, everything inside this area will not collide with anything in this area. So when you're building turret and you're wondering like how wide you should make them and how narrow the turret wells can be, well, the answer for that is in here. Go to Subobjects and you find them there. So if I go to my APS turrets, they are all built with this as an example. Like this is a not such a large turret. But if we select the wider one, you can see maybe we select the 11 one. I don't know. Yeah, no, not quite. This is the 15 one, and then you can like add it on top of that. So I'm gonna add this in the air, clicking backspace so we can actually build in the air. And then you can see when I plonk this thing down, which is the 11. There we go. You can see it exactly fits inside of here, which means that a turret well can be built along these lines without it making a collision. So that's like a handle. I don't know exactly what's shortcuts or not anymore. Oh, and if you're like trying to control a vehicle and nothing works, Shift T, that's probably what you did. Gets me every time. Hopefully I didn't forget too important shortcuts. If you did, add them in the comments. That's the ones I use at least. Look here, like central mirror. This is the thing. I learned something new also. There is a shortcut for this. It's Alt-N if you want to have a mirror in the central building plane. Instead of going into the menu, you can do that. But then you also go down when you disable and enable it. That's a little bit annoying. Well, anyways. Yeah, and now I just remembered some shortcuts I did forget that we are going to cover here, which are extremely useful. That is, you should be really careful with scroll wheel. So when you go into an APS system, access the intakes and like edit the shell, or anything that you can scroll, if you accidentally go over something and scroll on it a little bit, you may change the values, which totally can mess things up, and you might not realize that you did that. So that's a useful thing to do. And now we can see we have a lot of menus popping up again on the top of each other. Just click escape a couple of times until they go away. That's a good example. Anyways, one thing that you should definitely keep in mind, if you go into the E menu here and your vehicle isn't behaving as it should, it can be probably a very good idea to check what your vehicle like is set to do or set to be. So here you see, for example, we have an airplane, but if it was set to be a boat instead, it might get into some issues where it kind of behaves in a way it shouldn't be. So this is kind of a forgotten little setting that should actually be in the AI. However, it's kind of not. Inside here we have like the projectile avoidance. So if we set this on land, well, that's pretty stupid, but if it was on land and we go into this, you can see it's set as land there. And now we switch back to air inside of here. But if we go into the AI menu and go to adjustments, you can see it's still on land here. So you'll have to set it here and also in the menu here. Otherwise, you'll have issues. And if you're having some super ugly like bars that you can't remove, it's probably because you accidentally clicked Control R, and that brings up the resource mode. You'll also have a toggle for it up here in case that was an issue. Well, I hope some of these little tips were useful for you. And if they were, you should definitely leave the like on the video. Leave a like. I can't even speak anymore. Anyways. We just also completed our first Steam guide. So we have a Steam dictionary on the Steam Workshop. If you want to check that out, please give it a favorite there too so others can find it. Can be a little useful to get into know all the lingo, acronyms and abbreviations that people use in From the Depth, because this is a complex game, you know that. In any case, hope you enjoyed this video and be tuned for the future ones. We have many projects ongoing, and get into our Discord too for some community talk. If you want to support the channel, you have the options, and you also have some of my other channels there which need those support subscribers. I'm sorry for asking for it. I just want to have reached the 1,000 numbers so that I can monetize them. I hope you understand. In any case, this is Eric of Gmodism. Hope you have enjoyed. I'm signing out. Thanks for watching.